Welcome to Special PCN Roundtable on Pennsylvania's business climate. I'm Francine Schertzer. Our guests today are Andrea Shirk, President and CEO of Lititz, Mike Shirk, CEO of High Companies, Christine Martin, President of PPL Utilities, and Luke Bernstein, President and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. Luke, we'll start with you. How would you define Pennsylvania's business climate right now?
I think we continue to make strides to get more competitive. I think we have a lot of challenges and opportunities in front of us. The challenges that we have, I feel, are outweighed by our opportunities. Our opportunities are significant. When you look at Pennsylvania, we have a great cost of energy. We have a great energy infrastructure in Pennsylvania, infrastructure in general. We have one of the best work ethics in the country. We have wonderful academic institutions, proximity to markets. But where our challenges are, it's all things that are within our control. Our regulatory climate, it can be uncompetitive for businesses. Our tax structure can be uncompetitive for businesses. Our workforce can have some challenges. So if we can capitalize on our opportunities, we can really grow our state's economy and be very competitive. We made some significant gains even over the course of the last 2 years, and very optimistic as to where we're headed as a state and our opportunities that lie in front of us.
Christine, we'll come to you next. Tell us a little bit about PPL and its impact economically in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. So PPL Electric Utilities is one of the largest electric utilities in Pennsylvania. We're part of PPL Corporation, which is one of the largest investor-owned utilities in the U.S., who happens to also be headquartered in Pennsylvania. So we power 200,000 businesses in the Commonwealth. We have about 1.5 million customers, 50,000 miles of transmission and distribution lines. So we see ourselves very much as an enabler and an engine for the economy of Pennsylvania. We also invest significantly in our communities. Our employees are very civic-minded. Our foundations, our employees, our retirees have contributed just in the last year $6 million to our communities in charitable contributions. Again, we see ourselves as part of the fabric of the communities, but also an enabler of the economy. So we always want to make sure that we are helping our businesses and our customers with their energy needs, and never want to be a blocker of any development in the Commonwealth.
Andrea, we'll come to you next. If you could tell us a little bit about Lititz and its impact in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so what's unique and I think interesting about Lititz is our impact isn't just about us as a company, but it's about the multiple companies and kind of creative environments that we bring together. So Lititz has about 40 different companies that are all part of the campus and community that support live entertainment. I think one of the things that makes it exciting for Pennsylvania is we do have the world's largest rehearsal facility where we host acts, large touring acts, hitting stadiums and arenas all around the country. And the other interesting part about the economic impact is that we bring people from all over the globe here to rehearse. So if there's a rehearsal happening, the staff that's associated with that have come here from Australia, from Europe, from different parts of the U.S. And I think they love the community they see here. And so it also ends up bringing a tourist element.
Mike, same question to you. Tell us about High Companies, please.
So we're a family of 10 companies, locations in 8 states. Within Pennsylvania, we've got, I think, over 1,700 very talented, very awesome coworkers. 6 manufacturing facilities in Pennsylvania, so we're the premier fabricator of steel bridges in the country, highly innovative engineered precast business, a lot of real estate. So we've got 11 apartment communities, over 2,600 units of thousands of people who6 our apartment communities home, and our team works very hard to make it feel like a great home for them. 11 hotels, 2 restaurants, 6 million square feet of industrial office space. Big focus growth there has been partnering with some of our great career and technical education institutions to help them expand their capacity, the Thaddeus Stevens of the world, Pennsylvania College of Health. And recently, actually just finished in December of 2023, we finished transition of ownership from High Family to private foundation. And our mission now really is the benefit of the communities in which the companies operate. So the dividends used to go to family, now they're going to private foundation for direct investment in the community. So you're talking about just an incredible amount of resources that are going to be coming to those communities to make them better. And we believe that community success and business success go hand in hand.
Mike, we'll stay with you for a moment. What factors do you think make a state attractive to set up shop for business?
So we're very fortunate to be in Pennsylvania. I mean, I just think you look at the businesses we're in, real estate, manufacturing, construction, just the location, the proximity to, we are centralized around these great population centers. This tremendous amount of economic activity going on right around Pennsylvania. That is such a huge asset for us. Work ethic, I think Luke talked about work ethic. I mean, just to be here in central Pennsylvania, to have the work ethic that we have, we've got awesome coworkers, and we're so fortunate for that. And we've got a lot of educational capabilities. Like, like I talked about, career and technical education centers near us, tremendous four-year institutions. I'd like to see even more investment in certain parts of it, but that's a huge asset to us. And look, we're making some progress. The administration making some progress on bringing taxes down and getting us more competitive. And Luke talked about being competitive. Governor Shapiro talks a lot about making Pennsylvania more competitive. So I think we're making some gains there. So I think we feel really fortunate about where we're at. And I think we believe we've got a lot of opportunity. Certainly energy is an opportunity for us in the state. And yeah, a lot of good things going on here.
Andrea, similar question to you. Why did Rock Lititz set up shop in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, people always ask us that, 'cause not just Pennsylvania, but Lititz, small town. And we actually sort of give a lot of credit to our growth that we weren't in New York City and we weren't in sort of these major hubs. It forced a little bit more creativity, like figure out how you have to do it. Echoing what he said, the workforce around here is pretty incredible. For us, what's also incredible is the amount of just manufacturing capabilities that exist. So, we're building these really complex sets, and to make that happen, we're filling machine shops all around us. Some of our favorite stories, when you come through and tour, you'll see something that was out on some very high-profile artist tour, and you're like, oh, some Amish guy in a barn, designed and built that. So we rely really heavily on that manufacturing workforce, and we do rely on the creativity that I think gets created when you're not in the center of all of it, and you have to think a little differently and a little uniquely on how to solve some of those problems.
Christine, we'll come to you next. What factors make it attractive to set up shop and function in business in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we have set up shop in Pennsylvania 100 years ago. So we've been here for a long time. I think Pennsylvania truly is a keystone state in every respect, and you heard some of that already. I think the transportation corridors, the land availability, the varied businesses, and whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, food production, high tech, as a utility who's serving customers, having that kind of varied what we call electric load, but businesses in our 29 counties is really an asset. We're not reliant as a state on any one of those, so that diversity is great. We'd love to see that grow. We'd love to see manufacturing and technology grow in our area. We've had a lot of interest as of late from high energy users, the tech sector, data centers, and I think that does speak to the attractiveness of the state, the geography. And speaking for our company, one of the things that we've really focused on is innovation in our networks to create capacity and reliability. Those are absolutely essential for any high energy use industry.
Luke, what do you think makes Pennsylvania attractive or perhaps unique to do business?
Well, I think that's a great question. I just think I look at the individual sitting next to me. And so when you look at Mike's company and High, they're building the infrastructure. When you look at Christine's company, they're bringing it to life. They're giving it to energy. And you look at Andrew's company with Rock Lititz, and they're really bringing it to life and taking it to a whole new level. So just look at the different industries we have here. I think the diversity of industries in Pennsylvania, we are the most diverse economy in the country. Statistically, and that makes us unique and special. It also allows us to build on those strengths and our natural resources and that energy, the infrastructure, to continue to grow in different areas. For example, the life sciences sector in the southeastern part of the state. You look in the western part of the state, not only energy, but you're looking at different types of robotics and innovation and biotech that's going on there. So right now you're seeing a different resurgence of a Pennsylvania economy. And I liken it to, we just need to get our hair cut. We have all the tools, everything. We just need to tighten up in some areas. Tax reform, regulatory reform, permitting, workforce. If we can get those things right, we can really set this state on a trajectory that will be an economic power, not only in the country, but in the world.
Luca just detailed some priorities to perhaps make things better to do business in Pennsylvania. Andrea, what has your experience been? What have been the biggest challenges in running a business?
Yeah, I mean, the workforce is obviously really challenging, and I think that while we've seen some improvements, we continue to sort of face that. We are actually going to be opening a school on campus and really trying to help build some of that workforce. So making sure that we have the support to offer creative solutions to these problems. So we want to make sure that while there's regulations that are important to, make sure we do things correctly and do things right, we want to make sure we have some flexibility to also be creative to solve problems. And I think the important thing in Pennsylvania is that the businesses are part of that solution. And we've found that our voice, is heard, which is great. And we just want to make sure that we're continuing to tackle it as a team across, all the functions that help make something like that happen.
Mike, what have your greatest challenges been?
Well, over the long term, last several years and going forward, workforce is obviously right up there. I mean, you got near-term things, interest rates and things like that. But in terms of big structural things, workforce has been a challenge. We're in a good position right now. But if you look at Pennsylvania, I still think we're probably at the record low unemployment rate, low 3%. It does feel a little easier right now, I think, because labor force participation has improved a little bit, but it's still very, very tight. And, Lou talks about it, Andrea and Christine will too. I mean, I just think a ton of more and more investment into matching supply and demand in our educational system in the near term. So really investment in career and technical education, investment in the trades, investment in apprenticeships. Those go a long way. Those can have a near-term impact. In the long term, investment in STEM education in our schools, K through 12, those are longer-term investments. But really, we're improving it, but there's still a disconnect between kind of supply of what's coming out through the educational system with demand for that talent. And that's just, to me, it's a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity for businesses to thrive, the economy to thrive, and families to make career and sustaining and family sustaining jobs. And so that should be really number one right up there in terms of what we tackle.
Christine, your challenges?
Yeah, I would absolutely. I mean, workforce, I would agree, is always a challenge. For us, it's being a very skilled workforce and technical workforce. It's line technicians. Engineers are probably the areas where we have the most challenges. And we've worked with universities and community colleges to both put programs in place, particularly for line technicians where we can recruit from, as well as we're very, very, very big on internships at any time. Coming into spring and summer, I will see hundreds of interns across PPL Corporation. And a lot of those interns can also find full-time jobs with our company. So that connection with our quality universities in the state, as well as looking at our community colleges, is also really important. One other thing that we've been looking at is there are a number of people in this state who have some college education but haven't fully completed a degree. So we have looked across our jobs to determine what really does need completion of a four-year degree and what doesn't. And so we have revised some of our job postings in that respect, making sure that folks are still qualified, but perhaps being more flexible in our requirements. The other thing I would just add at a more macro level, and I'm sure Luke will probably speak to this as well, is really focused on our Commonwealth strategy in terms of economic development, in terms of energy strategy. We have so much opportunity in this state, and I think what we're probably lacking right now, and have for some years, because it's really a challenge, is to get a comprehensive economic development and energy strategy. That's something that we look to as a company that's providing critical infrastructure, who's regulated at the federal level, at the state level, who's working across much of the state to deploy our innovative and reliable network. We would, I think, all benefit from a more integrated and forward-looking strategy that really best utilizes the assets of the Commonwealth.
Luke, have you seen perhaps broader trends in the workforce over recent years?
Yeah, I think, as what Christine talked about, a long-term economic strategy for the state is something that's currently been developed. It's something Christine and I have talked about, others, and something that we've actually advocated to the governor. He is taking a lead on putting together a long-term economic strategy. We at the Chamber are also doing a blueprint to try and develop out key areas that will make us more competitive. talking about trends and areas of workforce. This has been done in other states. And so one benefit is looking at states like Florida or Georgia or North Carolina, Ohio, that have different programs, Virginia, that have done things very well, and how can we emulate them but make them specific to Pennsylvania, highlight our strengths? Because we have so many strengths. You just look at the companies here, what they do throughout the state and beyond, and the clients, customers that they serve is incredible. So we are seeing different trends. So one of the things that was a big challenge was there are 74 workers in Pennsylvania, the skilled workers, for every 100 available jobs. So we have a significant gap there, and we have to think differently. Christine, Mike, Andrea all talked in their own way about what they're doing to think differently and combat this challenge. Andrea started a school. Mike is doing this in that way. Christine talking about how do we re-look at things differently. That's an area of opportunity for us as we try and work as a chamber and others to get every person that wants to work and get them the skills to close that skills gap. We're seeing a little bit that on post-secondary education, more so now than I've seen in a long time, where universities are saying, how do we look at the target industries and try and prepare students for the jobs of today and tomorrow? But one thing that I think we all need to do a better job of in Pennsylvania is looking at our education institutions, whether that's career technical or whether that's our post-secondary, and saying these are education magnets where we can recruit people from all over the country because of our demographic challenge all over the world, train them here, educate them here, and then get them into jobs that are here in Pennsylvania to stay. Internships, apprenticeships, those will anchor those individuals here in Pennsylvania, and that's, I think, a real opportunity for this state as we move forward.
Mike, beyond specific skills, are there general traits that you look for when you're seeking out talent?
Yeah, certainly work ethic, right? And, we've got, we'll have many coworkers today with 1 day experience, and we've got many with 50 years. And so being able to, anybody work across those spectrums and be able to collaborate with people and recognize the similarities and recognize and respect the differences. And so a lot of those, some of those soft skills, communication, work ethic, and just being, empathy and being able to relate to people are important for anybody to be successful in any role. And we've got so many different jobs that it obviously is specific for each individual job. But those are some of the basics, just respect for the coworkers, communication.
Andrea?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo the same thing, attitude and mindset are a lot of what we look for. The skills can often follow, or we can teach them or train them. But it's also about looking at what we can do to help them. So just to sort of expand, housing is really critical, mental health support is really critical, and really figuring out not only what employees are we looking for, but how do we support them and help them? Because the skilled jobs, we are lacking housing to support those types of, pay scales in the community for sure.
Christine, would you like to jump in on it as well?
Sure. At PPL, we have what are called our spirit values. So they're values in the way we expect employees to work. So it's safety, number one in our business. Safety is a foundational priority. So it's safety, passion, innovation, responsibility, integrity, and teamwork. And those are the values and the practices that we rally around.
Do you think that employee expectations have changed in recent years?
I think that I don't know that the expectations have changed, but I do think the way in which we're working has changed. We have a changeover in our workforce, like we see in many in many businesses. We have very long tenured employees that are retiring, new employees coming in. So I think that need and obligation to make sure that we are appropriately training and mentoring new employees is really important, and also to be accepting of new ideas. Innovation was one of the values that I mentioned. That's really, really core. If we're going to deliver value to our customers and be flexible to serve businesses and residents, we have to be innovative and be accepting of new ideas. And so that's probably a difference in kind of the way we're working as opposed to expectations.
Would anybody else like to comment on employee expectations and whether that has changed in recent years?
I just think they've evolved. And I think that maybe they are in so many ways the same, that people are just more willing to talk about them and more willing to represent themselves. And so we're seeing a lot more of our employees asking for things that we should be giving them, quite frankly. They're just asking for them differently now. So we obviously have to always continue to have a balance, but I sort of give kudos to them for setting some boundaries and setting some expectations.
Christine, I'm going to come back to you one more time because you mentioned supply chain a little bit earlier in the program. Have you experienced supply chain problems, and how do we address those?
We have. So supply chain for us is both local and, of course, national. At a local standpoint, we have a number of locally sourced products. So we spend nearly $500 million on locally sourced products. Our issues have been primarily at a national and international level. So this is not unique to PPL Electric Utilities in the energy sector, but there are critical components like transformers, for example, where we have shortages. There are increased costs involved. It has absolutely impacted us as a business, and of course it's a direct impact to our customers. We were just talking about in the building and construction industry, our ability to connect our business customers, our new homeowners is part of what we need to do. It's a critical service. We have had challenges in actually procuring metering technology and transformers to do that. So we have worked across our companies, across our utility companies. We're a highly regulated industry, so as crazy as it sounds, we can't just necessarily just buy from our sister utilities, but we actually have worked with our regulators in Pennsylvania to be able to do just that. And so we've been able to look at our standards across our company, make sure that we've got uniform standards and we can actually exchange or purchase equipment from each other. We also work as part of our national industry, the Edison Electric Institute, in terms of sharing of best practices, sharing of equipment. We're also working with our federal regulators as well to raise awareness of this and also to work with them to not exacerbate the issue. There are some policies that have been considered just even in the last year that would actually make that procurement of transformers, for example, even more challenging. We also do have standards around the components of our equipment and where that can come from. Again, it's very complex, but we absolutely have seen this as a continuing and persistent issue.
Mike, could you comment on this as well?
Yeah, sure. We went through some interesting wild times with regard to supply chain over the last several years. It is much better generally than it has been, but there are still pockets of challenges, and Christine spoke to some of them. And it used to be we design a building, we figure out what we need to buy, we start construction, we start buying things, right? And we go through that. Now it's okay. We're designing a building. We got to buy that switchgear now. Make sure it's available in a year, and then we were at times we were buying a roof material a year in advance of when we might need it. We never did those things before, and so you do have to make adjustments, and you have to be flexible as best you can once you realize the environment. You got to stay on top of where things are. But some of the electrical components and things like that, or she has a challenge, we have a challenge, and you got to do your best to get ahead of it, and again, be flexible. So be nimble, be flexible is kind of the name of the game these days.
Luke, I'd like to shift gears a little bit. Could you talk a little bit about the current economy and how that's affecting business in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I think some of the themes that we're talking about today, I think inflation's gotten a little bit better, but it's still a challenge. And so there's still challenges with inflation. Supply chain has gotten better, but as we talked about, there are still challenges. Workforce has gotten a little bit better, but there are still significant challenges and training gaps and other pieces there. So we have a long ways to go. I think, I'm optimistic because the things that I feel are within our control to change, we can change them. The things that are not within our control are really strong. Our educational system, our proximity to markets, our infrastructure, while some aged, it's still a very intricate infrastructure here in Pennsylvania. Our energy, our natural resources, all real positive for us. So optimistic long term on the outlook of the economy. Doing some things in terms of workforce that I think would help companies grow. I think you heard today all the different challenges. companies are trying to create solutions for. So if we can get some of the regulatory burdens down that allow companies to continue to operate safely and effectively, it can help them combat some of these challenges. So, and even if it's not regulatory, coming up with different solutions and the collaboration, I think you're seeing from companies like these three that are very forward-thinking, very involved, and really just want to keep their employees safe, strengthen their communities, and do a good job for their customers. That's what the core and central to what they're talking about. So as we look at the economy now, I think it is strong. I think we keep trying to talk ourselves into it's not as good as what it could be, but I do think the outlook in Pennsylvania is bright, and there's a lot of opportunities in the 12 to 18-month horizon in particular that we can take advantage of.
Andrea, what makes you optimistic for the future of your business?
Well, the entertainment industry is interesting. It kind of rides out recessions really well, which is great. But, we are seeing a lot of demand. People want to go to shows. They want to experience live entertainment. We're seeing on the flip side of that, the ability to run our business. So interest rates starting to come down, supply chain issues that we're seeing starting to, get better. So I think it's got to be both that happen collectively. And we tend to have like one, spectrum is good, right? During post-pandemic, we could all build really well, but we didn't necessarily have we had some of the other issues. So I think we're seeing things stabilize a little bit. And we're always going to have challenges to manage. It would just be nice that we weren't managing them in multiple buckets at the same time.
Mike, same question to you. What makes you optimistic?
So, look, I think some of the things we talked about, there's still a great opportunity out there. The economy is, reasonably healthy, and I think, barring discontinuities in the world and things like that, there's you can look with some optimism in the future. I think we've got a lot of investment going in infrastructure here in Pennsylvania, here in the United States. That's certainly for our companies is a great opportunity for us, and we're heavily, as a premier bridge fabricator, heavily involved in that. I do think there's a lot of areas that we're investing in real estate, multifamily apartments, communities, industrial real estate. You might have blips in here, and right now, because of interest rates, there's not as much construction going on, things like that. But I think the long-term demand fundamentals for some of those sectors are really, really solid. I'm a firm believer in them, and when you've got the team, when you've got the capability, when you've got the talent in the workforce, and you got the will and the conviction, there's just a ton of opportunity out there, and so we're ready to take advantage of it.
Christine, you get the final word.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I think we've had a bit of a slow climb out of COVID, maybe even a little bit more than some other states have experienced. But I think all the work that's going on, Luke mentioned the governor's economic plan, the work that the chamber is doing. I think there's so much opportunity to really capitalize on the assets of the Commonwealth, our workforce, our natural resources. From an energy standpoint, we are in a transformation. We're in a transformation for how people use energy, the makeup of our energy sources, and how the transmission and the distribution grid that we operate needs to stay ahead, to be adaptable, flexible. That's really exciting. Where there's transformation, I think there's just such significant opportunity.
Our guests have been Andrea Shirk, President and CEO of Rock Lititz, Mike Shirk, CEO of High Companies, Christine Martin, President of PPL Utilities, and Luke Bernstein, President and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. I'm Francine Schertzer. Thank you for watching.